Dropped at the Commission of Inquiry into state capture in Parktown, Johannesburg, where former Transnet Electrical Engineer Francis Callard is testifying. He says a deviation from normal procurement processes to purchase 100 locomotives from China South Rail CSR was unwarranted. This was because their locomotives were not suitable for Transnet's coal line as envisaged in its market demand strategy.
I prepared a case for these 100 locomotives that it was unilaterally changed by Transnet Group executives and or freight rail supply chain services to favor CSR.
So, and for the record, CSR is China South Rail.
China South Rail.
Yes.
Yes. There was material, the changes and implications were material, and I submit that the representation that was made to the BADEC committee in respect of the business case I prepared, that as it had been changed, was misleading in certain respects. It is also my considered opinion that the confinement to CSR was flawed in concept and execution, and the upfront payments to CSR before the first locomotive was delivered were excessive.
Well, for more on today's testimony, we're joined by our reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa. Mbali, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So you've been there today at the state capture inquiry. What stood out for you? There were bombshells about the Chinese rail issue.
You know, the China South Rail issue is big. It's a big part of the Transnet leg. But unfortunately, it's not new. We've seen everyone testifying about China South Rail and the preferential treatment that it received from Transnet. This was in relation to, you know, a number of procurements relating to locomotives. Now, what we've heard today is basically something that Dr. Former Mthethwa referred to, Peter Volmink referred to, as well as yesterday's guest, Mohammadi, also referred to, where a confinement that was due to Mitsui was cancelled, rescinded or cancelled by Brian Molefe, and then 3 months later the very same confinement converted to China South Rail confinement. And what we've heard today are details of how this went, happened, and how, you know, executives had gone about doing this. So we hear that then executive Siyabonga Gama sent a text message to our guest from, the witness, today's witness, yes, asking him to basically create a proposal for 100 locomotives, and there are a few alterations. Instead of 60 diesel locomotives, the 80 diesel locomotives in this request. He generates this request, and he's there as the author of this proposal. But he later learns that, not even later, just 3 days later on a Wednesday, he learns that, there are alterations that have been made to the original proposal, and the specifications have been changed. And the confinement is obviously changed from being a Mitsui confinement to being a China South Rail confinement. And the problem here is that the point of contention here is that, the specification change is has some ramifications, in the sense that we heard in the news about locomotives that did not fit or even fit our South African standards, and this is basically it. Because specifications were changed, this is what led to those locomotives landing in South Africa. And it's almost as though decisions were made not in Transnet's interest, but in the interest of external entities. And this is what we've been hearing, and this is somewhat a theme that has resonated among witnesses at the state capture inquiry. But one thing that we can actually look forward to next week is a prepayment that was paid to China South Rail, which is in the billions. And he says, that is the witness today, Francis Callard. He explains to the commission that this almost crippled the freight rail's finances, because they had to come up with the money very quickly. And that's what we can actually, and people can look forward to next week, when we go into the details of this prepayment that went into the billions.
And of course, the fact that the specifications were not in sync with South African specifications it was only a matter of time once the locomotives landed here that they would be found out.
Of course. I mean, you also heard just before the commission adjourned for the week, you also heard about attempts to try and change these so he talks about a 19E locomotive and a 20E locomotive, saying that the specification obviously meant that he required a 19E, which would have been perfect and would have been heavy enough, so on. He explains these things. These are very technical, something that you and me, because we're not engineers,
yes.
we really wouldn't be able to understand. But basically, the other one would be fit our South African specifications, and the other one was not suitable, and basically that's what happens. You see the specification changing in that sense.
But the sheer arrogance in actually choosing something that was not suitable, purely for financial gain.
Unfortunately.
Thank you very much for your update. We shall wait for Monday's testimony. Thank you very much. That was Mbalenhle Mthethwa, our reporter, bringing us up to speed on